Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday on the phone podcast. Super excited. I'm excited every week, but I'm ultra excited for my guest today. I've been friends with her for probably 13, 14 years. I've known her a long time. Not only is she a great friend, wife, and mother, she's an incredibly brilliant strategist, and she is slowly, well, actually quickly, becoming the top branding strategist or brand strategist within the real estate industry. And I'm excited to talk to her. Coming up next, it's time to own the phone. All righty, welcome back. It's Wednesday, 2 p.m., and that can mean one thing, that we are about to talk to a fantastic person who is not only amazing in what they do, but has also overcome some pretty incredible challenges in their life, because we're here to educate you and inspire you. Let me tell you a little bit about Hollie. Hollie Kitchens is a brand strategist. She helps companies with branding and online presence building, from new logos and establishing a brand identity to podcast launching to doing complete rebrands. Hollie is known for her passion on helping others establish authority while maintaining authenticity. She's the CEO and founder of Agent Authority Academy, which we're going to talk about a little bit later today. In fact, why don't we go ahead and throw that one up there right now? And a licensed real estate agent, homes in Oklahoma and in Texas with eXp Realty. And she's also the host to Unleash Your Inner Legend podcast and founder of Women Elevation. So one of Hollie's core values is continually growing and getting better. If she's not working or spending time with her family, Hollie dedicates a lot of her time to honing her knowledge, which I agree, both professionally and personally, by hiring professional coaches, attending seminars, consuming herself with personal development, and surrounding herself with like-minded people. If that is not the truth, I don't know what is. Hollie Kitchens, welcome to On the Phone.
Oh my gosh, Wally, I am so excited. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I mean, great. I'm so happy to have you. Is it funny to sit here and this is like, I was thinking about this. I was having lunch. I'm thinking like, this is like you building a house and then going to dinner at the person's house and looking at everything you built, right? Because you did all this for me, the video, the design. Speaking of which, I've forgot to click this button. So to all this stuff. I mean, it's amazing. It's beautiful. I get compliments all the time on how professional it looks, and you set this all up for me. So, I mean, it's incredible. So for those of you who are watching today, Hollie is available to take on new clients. And so if you like what you see here every week and you like what she has to say, she's your gal. So let's do this. Why don't we start with where you're from? I mean, you're from that huge town in Oklahoma that you told me about, 300
yes.
people. So start there.
So I'm from a very small town. And when people say just a small town girl, like a legit small town girl from Rush Springs, Oklahoma, I believe the population is like 1,300. And I want to say like 60% of those are senior citizens, or at least that's what it felt like growing up there. But yeah, super small town in Rush Springs, Oklahoma is where I grew up in.
Gotcha. Cool. And so, how did you happen into the real estate industry? Let's just start there first, because I met you when you were an agent. You really hadn't gotten into what you're doing now, as it is. So how'd you find your way into real estate?
So it's really funny. Growing up in Oklahoma, or the area that I grew up in, there's just a couple of ways that you could actually get money. And people, wealth is not a word that's in the dictionary. It's more of like getting money. Like you gotta realize that, like, I grew up in an environment, it was just living, not even paycheck to paycheck, but government assistant to government assistance, right? So going through that, I always knew, and my mom did the best she could. I'm the fourth kid. We all have different dads. We all are within a couple of years of each other. My mom was a single mom. We're raising 4 kids with none of our dads in the picture. And I just remember as a child thinking, like, watching Baywatch, watching all these people do these incredible things and thinking, like, I want to do something else other than, be here. So when I got into high school, I was very rebellious. I almost dropped out of high school. I stopped for about 6 months. But anyways, I ended up becoming pregnant at the age of 16 and having my first son at the age of 17. And that really made me get my stuff together, I quickly realized my priorities and not just myself. It was also now another little tiny human being. So with that being said, in the area, there's only like 2 ways that you can get money quickly in the sense of, you know, not being inheriting or anything like that. And it's going to be real estate or it's going to be medical. And it's so funny because I initially enrolled in college in Cameron University for the goal of going to nursing school. And about halfway through the year, I realized that college wasn't paying the bills. And I also realized I couldn't get through an episode of Dr. 90210 without like being grossed out, like about to faint. So there's no way I could make it into the medical profession.
Interesting way to figure that out for yourself, by the way, but I got you. Okay.
Yeah, very quickly I figured that out. So anyways, I was when the banking industry did like, you know, new accounts, all that stuff. And I remember, it's so funny. I remember telling the loan officer that I was assisting, I was like, I will never be a real estate agent. Like, because we dealt with some crazy people, like some crazy ones coming through as, you know, on loans and stuff. And of course, you know, here I am as a licensed real estate in 2 states, but I, you know, quickly realized the opportunity in real estate. And I just realized that not all real estate agents are like that. They're just the AFAs. And I was at a bonfire and a friend of mine was like, you've got to go talk to this guy named Jay Kinder. And I knew who his name was because he's on the billboards. He was everywhere. He was the local celebrity for sure in the marketplace. And I remember thinking like, there's no way in heck I can go work for a guy like that because like I was actually going to go talk to a very small town brokerage that I was going to go talk to because I feel like that would be a better fit. Anyways, I pinky promised her, and we all know a pinky promise is a very, very, you know, commitment.
Very sincere.
So I might as well have just gave her some of my blood and we could, you know, whatever. But anyways, I called the real estate office. They said, long story short, I walked in, got an interview with Jay, started on his team, was very grateful for that opportunity. But that's really how I got into real estate because I can't stand the sight of blood. That's a long way to say that.
And the good thing is there's no bleeding in real estate, so you're in good shape. So
100%.
All right. So so it's interesting. You know, I mean, somebody looks at you, you're articulate, you know, you're very smart. You've been, you know, podcast speaking. You share great ideas with people, you know, you're an attractive woman, you've got all this, but that wasn't always that way, right? I mean, you know, what we see now isn't who you were, you know, 20 years ago, or not 20, I forget, you're not, you know, 15 years ago, sorry. But my point is how do you, because if you come from a small town, there's probably not a lot of positive influences, right? There's probably not a lot of people that are examples of how to get out of the small town, right? 100%. So how do you know, you're 16, you have your boy Zach, right? And how did you not give up? Because I think it's important, because my whole thing here is, you know, like I said, to educate and inspire. We got lots of people that are facing challenges every day, that some are as dire as that, and some are more dire, some are less dire, but everybody's got their own challenges to face. How did you get through it? Because you really had, I mean, you were left to your own devices, right?
100%. You know, my mom, like I said before, she did the absolute best she could, but you know, she had circumstances of what we're in, grew up in low-income housing. And I remember even like as a child, we ate from trash cans. And I just remember the moment I had my son, I was like, I will never, ever do that. And like, that's how I grew up. That's the only thing we knew was like, you get on welfare, you know, whatever, just do whatever. But I just knew that wasn't the way.
Right.
So I would be very resourceful. Like, for instance, you know, I wouldn't have the money for new clothes. So I would take the clothes I currently have and would throw bleach on them, or do certain ways and, like, you know, distress them, make them look a little bit cooler, make a Walmart t-shirt, make a $3 Walmart t-shirt look as cool as I could with the resources I had. So I guess I've always been resourceful. And you're absolutely right. Like, in a small hometown, like, our library consisted of 2 genres when it comes to like education. It's going to be history and fiction. Like, I personally, and this is going to sound so silly, but I didn't even know personal growth or personal development was a thing. I had no idea. And it's really, I guess I would say personal development really kind of catapulted. Like, I already had that like yearning inside of saying like, I want more, not only for myself, but for my kid. But I remember going into Jay's office, and I remember seeing Awaken the Giant Within, Tony Robbins' book.
Yes.
And obviously Tony Robbins' face is on the cover. And I remember looking at it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the guy from Shallow Hal. Like, I didn't even know who Tony Robbins was. Like, he was the tall guy in the elevator.
Banana hands. Remember banana hands? We called them banana hands, right?
Like that's how I do them. So just starting on that and having the foundation, I quickly realized that there's a lot of this stuff that holds you back. And, I mean, we all still struggle with our stuff we've dealt with but, like I would always relate attention to negativity because whenever someone would pay attention to me in school, it would usually because like I don't have nice clothes or I don't have nice things or whatever the case may be. So I always would like to fly under the radar, and that was kind of my comfort zone. And that's what I enjoyed about working on Jay's team is I still got to do that because I was hiding behind Jay's signs. I was hiding behind his logo, his billboards, everything. And it wasn't really until I started my boutique, my hobby boutique. I don't have it anymore, but when I started it, of course, I do what anyone else do in a business. I hire a coach to collapse time because I know the importance of coaching. Right. And I was on the phone with him and he said something that was so simple, but it really changed a lot of my mindset on it. And he had asked me, what are you doing differently than Amazon or Target? Because the boutique I had was an online only store and it was for concert goers. Well, you can go to Target and get a Guns N' Roses shirt for $12. Like, why are they going to pay double that amount through me on an online store? They don't know who it is or whatever. And it's so funny because like I just hated attention so much, and I didn't have the money to go hire models. So I would model the clothes, but I would crop out my face. It was so funny. Like you would just see the rest, like you would see no head. Like it would just be the clothes.
Like a mannequin shirt.
Yeah, ridiculous. But then like I was kind of thinking, like, okay, so being resourcefulness, what can I do? And I was thinking like, and I go to these concerts. It's always a fun time. I either like somehow meet the band or talk with the fans or create that experience. Why not just record that? And at the time, I thought it was going to be a blog, which is silly because me and my grammar skills, it's just not going to happen. But
I know not of what you speak.
But that really had me thinking, and that's really how I started getting into podcasting. And it's so funny to look back because like I just knew in that moment of time, if I truly wanted to be a business owner, I had to act like a business owner. I had to put my big girl pants on and show up as one and let people know who I was, because that's going to be what's different than Target. That's what I'm different from Amazon is Amazon's not me. They don't have Hollie kitchens as the owner, as a leader, whatever. Right. So then I started realizing the power of putting out intentional content and connecting with people and really attracting people who enjoyed that. Right. And I guess that's really how it kind of started, but it's so much of a mindset and being super aware and intentional of the direction of everything. Like that's how I really got into it, because I was the complete opposite. Like if you were to talk to me when I was in second grade and say, hey, when you grow up, you're going to be helping people do that. Not only are you going to be doing it, but you're going to be helping people. I would be terrified. I'm like, there's no way. Like, what can I do not to do that? So it's just funny. But at the end of the day, I think that a lot of it's just personal development and really continually growing and being uncomfortable in situations.
Yeah, the irony is not lost on me, and I'm guessing it's not lost on you. You're somebody who didn't want to be seen, and what you specialize is in helping people be seen. So yeah, kind of funny, right? So
it's very ironic. Yes.
Sometimes you have to see the opposite of something to be able to go ahead and say, okay, I can make it happen. So you started life out after you did your boutique, you became the DIY legend, correct? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yep. And so that was kind of your first foray into social media branding is, hey, listen, I'm going to show you how you can do this yourself where you don't need me. So how did we get there? And then how did we gravitate to hollykitchens.com and, Agent Authority? Let's kind of talk about that ascension there.
Absolutely. So when I was like 15, being the antisocial introvert that I was, I really poured myself into MySpace and in that digital world. So during that time, that would date me right there.
Don't mind the gray hair. It's hidden, but it's there.
During that time, I started doing all these little cool like HTML stuff and loop music and things like that. And I would always have my friends like, how do I do that? So I started setting up these little templates. I'm like, okay, just take this, copy and paste it, change out with this. Because I didn't have the time to do, at least I didn't have the time to do as a kid. I totally had the time now that I'm looking back. But fast forward to my launch of the boutique, everyone kept asking, well, how do you do that? Or who's doing that for you? I'm like, I'm doing it myself. And that came in the DIY. So when people would hit me up in the inbox and say, how did you do that? I love what you did. I love that. I kind of reverted back to that 15-year-old saying, hey, I don't have time to show you because like legitimately now there's so much going on. Here's how you do it yourself. And so that's really how it created like the DIY part was like pouring yourself into just being resourcefulness because you had nothing else. So I started with DIY and it was amazing, great feedback. But what I noticed, and this is kind of the transition from DIY legend to Agent Authority Academy, I would say like 95% of my following, 97% of my following was real estate agents. And I have that other few percent were like ride or die, whatever, they're going to be there with me through the end. And then I started looking at it and I'm like, I'm giving people all these tools and telling them how to do stuff, but they don't ever do it. Not because they don't want to, or they don't know how to, obviously I just showed them how, but they don't have the time to. I mean, they're out there, you obviously coach real estate agents, the best use of their time is going to be showing houses, making cold calls, doing all those things, right?
Sorry to interrupt, look at everything you did for me. I didn't, I could have figured it out myself, but I didn't have the time to do all this. And
but how long would it have took you for actually to do it, right?
Probably would have never happened, quite honestly. Yeah, you did it in like 2 hours. So
like, because I was showing everybody how to do all the things. And then I was like, wait a minute. That's when I kind of had the epiphany that like, sorry, I can't talk. Anyways, that's when I had the idea or the, the light bulb moment of people don't want to DIY. They don't want to learn. No one wants to learn how to launch a podcast. No one wants to learn how to make your show look awesome like this. They just want the result. And I think that was the kind of like the aha moment is during COVID when I rebranded everything, because that was like a lot of time where people are like, I really need to stand out online because everyone else is online and everyone else and their dog's online too. So I guess that was kind of the transition from DIY to Agent Authority Academy, is like dialing in on who my ICP was and then understanding their pain points. The pain points, what I was helping them was the solution, but it wasn't the solution to the problem that I thought they had. The problem I thought they had was they didn't know how to do it. The problem that they actually had was they just needed it done.
Right. And so ICP, ideal client profile, right? Just for those who may not know that nomenclature. So now you've got hollykitchens.com, right? And then you also have Agent Authority Academy.
Yep.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about both of those? What's the obvious Agent Authority Academy is specifically for real estate agents, but maybe you could talk a little bit more about the differences of why somebody would come to you through Agent Authority Academy versus just hiring you as hollykitchens.com.
100%. So Agent Authority Academy is still there's still a lot of DIY components to that. So like I have a course on how to launch your own podcast. Like that's a DIY thing. How to create your own story stickers. That's a DIY thing, as well as getting featured in media. But if you want to have me as like a consult or somebody actually hands-on in your business, obviously hollykitchens.com, that's where it comes to play. And really hollykitchens.com exists because of the importance of personal branding. Now I could build the entire thing I have on hollykitchens.com on Agent Authority Academy, but at the end of the day, how is that different from the next thing? What's different is me. And I think that's important that people don't understand, like branding yourself, especially now, is so critical. If you look at like Virgin, let me look real quick on Virgin Records.
Richard Branson's company,
yeah.
Right?
So if you go to Richard Branson, actually, let's do Virgin real quick. I'm pulling up on Instagram. For those who are listening to the audio podcast of this portion, I'm Virgin Records. So when we pull it up on Instagram, their following is going to be 5,143 people versus Richard's personal account.
1 million.
4.2 million. Yeah. So that's the power of a personal brand. That's the power of you. So that's why I have that. And too, like, today you would ask me, hey, like for final information of this, where did I send you? I sent you to my website. Like, it's just more professional. It's more streamlined. It's more, it's just a different way to show authority. Because if someone says, for instance, I can email you from hollykitchens@gmail.com. Okay, that's cool, whatever. Or I can email you from holly@hollykitchens.com, which is going to be more professional. What's going to be the first impression there? And then obviously people with curious minds are going to copy and paste that link into the URL to see where it goes. So it's just all a part. Like Agent Authority Academy is like, a lot of the DIY stuff, a lot of stuff like that. But hollykitchens.com is for like a personal brand, is authority. It's branding me, right?
Yeah. And you've been working on this, 5 years now?
Yeah.
5 years,
which is so crazy to think. Yeah, about 5 years ago, if you were to search my name in Google, like you would learn nothing. Like I even put like, I don't know if Facebook has it now as an option, but I remember back in the day, I went through Facebook settings and made the mark like hide from online search engine. Like I didn't want my profile even showing up on Google.
Yeah.
because I was so scared of that attention. Like back in when I was working on Jay's team in Lawton, we did, they had those little flip cameras. This is before iPhone cameras were really good. And they passed them out to us. They're like, hey, go encourage you guys to start doing your own things. I created a YouTube video of an open house. And I, just is new construction open house walkthrough video. And this is 2010, 2011, before YouTube was YouTube really as it is today.
Right.
And I remember checking it like a week later and it had 30,000 views. And the me today would be ecstatic. I'm like, how do I replicate this? What caught it on fire? But the me back then not only deleted that video, but deleted the entire YouTube channel because I got scared, like who's looking at this? And some weirdos, what's going on? I was just nervous. Yeah. So it's just so funny to see the transition of all that. It's
amazing. Yeah. And I've obviously followed your career, and I mean, you've been, super instrumental in helping me with grow my brand, I do want to get into kind of, if you were going to put a branding solution together, what order you would go in. But I want to point something out that you just talked about. My program is about sales call reluctance, but it's really just about sales reluctance in general, procrastination, self-sabotage. And so, the same thing that keeps people from getting on the phone is the same thing that keeps people from getting in front of video, right? It's that fear of rejection, fear of being judged and stuff like that. So how'd you overcome that? Like, what did you do? You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I think we're our own toughest critics. Somebody could look at you and say, wow, look at this beautiful woman. And you could look at yourself and say, oh my God, like, I don't, I look like both of the clown, you know what I'm saying? So, and then it's until we believe how we feel people are going to perceive us, that's going to make the change.
Yeah.
And how it happens. Does that make sense?
100%.
So we've got to make the change in here. So how'd you get to there? Because I mean, you just, and let me just real quickly, so some people may have joined us late. You went from being, one of four in a household with just your mother, where you probably, just because it was your mother, you probably didn't get a truckload of attention, right? Because your mom was busy, right? And so working and ever, you didn't have a dad. And so they need a kid at 16. So you didn't have any attention there. And, maybe you were embarrassed at the time because you're like, oh my God, I can't this happen. So, you started your life just trying to, stay in between the lines. I mean, stay in between the hedges so nobody could see you. And then you get into business, but your first 10 years in business, you are, hey, listen, I'm happy to help you as long as you don't have to look at me and see me anywhere. Right. To now, like, what do you got? 31 million views on your various social media platforms?
Yeah, on story stickers. Yeah, my Jiffy account, I have over 33 million. Yeah.
Yeah, 33 million. I didn't mean to short you. I just the last time 33 million. I'm sorry. So the whole point is now you're everywhere. You're ubiquitous. If you Google Hollie Kitchens, you can see, you're with HSRA and you're spoken other places, and now we can find you anywhere. How do you get to the point where you're willing just to step out of your comfort zone and realize that, hey, I'm going to do something here if I'm going to make this happen? So talk about that, because I think that's germane to what we're trying to solve here.
100%. Looking back, like why I deleted that video with the 30,000 views, although there was no negative comments, but I was waiting for it, right? I was waiting for the trolls and all that stuff. And I think really it's, again, going back to personal growth and the development between your ears here. Mm-hmm. But I remember at one of the EGSs, it was one in Scottsdale, Brian Moses was at the dinner table and we were eating at Roy's, and he was talking about like coming from a place of love. So talking about like in relationships, a lot of people get criticism, or they misunderstand that criticism. They think it's like, oh, that person's just being negative, or that person's just being controlling or whatever. But he said, always see and look and see if they're coming from a place of love. And I think that really resonated with me, not just relationships, but online relationships. So if someone's on my video trolling me or making a negative comment, are they truly coming from a place of love? Like 10 out of 10 times, no. Right. There's a lot, like they don't even know who you are. And if they do know who you are and they're still spreading hate, they're not looking out for my best interest. Now, if my mom wants to put something negative on there, I know that she's coming from a place of love, so I'd look at it differently. Sure. If she's like, "Oh, this is not a good look for you," or whatever, like I would look. I doesn't mean that that's truth, but her intentions are a lot better than some rando on Instagram or YouTube or something like that. So that really helped me kind of understand, like, kind of shift my perception of, oh my gosh, that's negative attention or that's bad things saying about me too. I'm just dismissing them because they're not coming from a place of love. They don't have my best interest at heart. And at the end of the day, I almost feel sorry because I'm like, I'm sorry that you're so hateful as a person. Because usually, they're either kids or, I'm sorry that your parents raised you like that, or I'm sorry that you're an adult and you are so negative and in such a bad place in the world. So at the end of the day, just kind of turning around and seeing that perception of what's the worst that can happen. Okay, they sit there and say, oh my gosh, you look ridiculous. You call that pretty, LOL, or something stupid like that. They're not coming from a place of love. I just dismiss it automatically.
Yeah. So interesting, it took me 10 years, literally a full decade, to overcome sales call reluctance to get to the point where I could pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And how long do you think it took you to get to the point where you could sit in front of a camera and feel good about it?
10 years, at least 10 years for sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So now, with the stuff that you offer, even the stuff that I offer, we can collapse time for people like to weeks. You know what I'm saying? So the only reason I say that is, your social media is not going anywhere. In fact, it's going to become more and more prevalent as part of pretty much every selling cycle for just about every business. 100%. And if you can't create a brand for yourself and attract people to it and radiate authenticity and give them a reason to want to connect with you, it's going to be a long business. It's going to be a long business cycle for you. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to get that. So look, 100%. You've got a podcast. You have two. You have like the Monday Minute, right?
Yeah, so it's all underneath the umbrella of Unleash Your Inner Legend. Yeah.
But you have the Monday Minute, and then you've got your Unleash Your Inner Legend with the Krem, right?
So I have my main podcast that I'm solo host to is Unleash Your Inner Legend. So on that, I do a segment called Monday Minutes, which is like a way to set the week off, if you will.
Yep.
And then on Wednesdays, I drop like a core episode, which is going to be either a guest or it could be a replay of me speaking on stage, something like that. Now, outside of that podcast, I have a show with Nick. It's called the Hollie and Krem Show that we do a content and branding show on Tuesdays. I almost said Monday. Sorry. Right. On Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Central. So they're separate podcasts, but they're definitely podcasts for sure.
So you're creating a ridiculous amount of content where people can find you and see you talking at a bunch of different stuff. You're also on Facebook. You're on Instagram. You're on LinkedIn. What else? Oh, you're on Clubhouse. And then you're also a what do you would call it? You're a guest writer on Entrepreneur Magazine.
Yep.
Right. So you've basically, your spider web, if you will, of opportunity it's reaching all different areas so people can find you anywhere. And that's really where that authority comes from. It's not just being there, it's also adding value. 100%. Right. And not trying to sell anything. So you're adding value, but your authority is such that, like, if somebody to go search you after this and say, geez, can Hollie help me grow my brand? They're going to put your name in and they're going to see you're the 50 different places. You know what I'm saying? And so obviously the best thing to do is for them to hire you because you shorten. No, seriously. I'm not. Yeah. And listen, I don't come here and try and plug anything for anybody. I just, the whole point is like you said, you do what you do best and you find somebody else that does what they do best. That's different from what you do, and you let them go and do it, but what's the track? You know what I'm saying? What's the course that people should usually take to kind of get that branding out there, and what order should they
100%.
do?
So whether you're hiring a professional or you're being resourceful like I was starting out and you don't have the funds available, at the very beginning, you've got to get your brand identity dialed in. Like that's step number one. It's understanding what's your brand colors, what's your brand fonts, what's your look and feel, what's your logos. I don't even know what your logo is, Wally, right? Just kidding, because it's everywhere, right? But you got crystal clear on that. Once you get crystal clear on that and you understand, like, okay, well, who am I in business for? Your ICP, understanding their pain points, and then understanding where they live. They live on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the places you had mentioned, right? That's where real estate agents are. Now, if you were to say, like, TikTok, I'm personally just not big on, just because it's just not my thing. But there are real estate agents on there, and I know a lot of them that's gone viral, and a lot of them have gotten a bunch of referrals and things like that from there. But for me, it's getting crystal clear on your whole brand, everything, understanding the value proposition, understanding everything, and then asking yourself where these people are going to be at, and where am I most comfortable, in the sense of where am I most competent, I guess is the word I'm looking for, on being. I already knew Facebook. Instagram is pretty much easy, same thing. LinkedIn, I'm still getting there. There's just a lot of spam messages for me personally. It's so tough.
And LinkedIn is like, people just get hammered with all
yes.
kinds of people trying to, and it's funny, and you'll appreciate this. I, now that I'm out and about and being seen, I get a lot of friend requests every day.
Yeah.
And I'm really picky now because I look at it and I'm like, oh, Forex trader. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I know what's coming. It's already coming down the pike because I know as soon as I accept them, I bust people's chops sometimes. There's a guy who's a fitness guy and he's probably, trolling Facebook for people that need to lose weight. You know what I'm saying? And like, he sees me, he's like, oh, there's a guy I could help. And so I accepted his friend request because, I never know. Maybe people are trying to get, over their issues with sales. And so he comes and hits me up like 10 minutes later. And I go, dude, really? I said, you just became friends with me and you're already pitching me.
Like, date me before you try to marry me.
Yeah, I'm like, at least buy me dinner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he's like, I'm sorry. I know. I'm like, I'm happy to talk to you, but you think this endears you to me. This isn't inure to your benefit. And I'm like, I'm not, so it's just, you have to have some elegance and some eloquence about 100%. Your approach when you're doing it for sure. So, okay. So let's talk about, we got about 5 minutes here. So let's talk about what you're working on now. So what's on your radar screen right now? What are you working on now?
So I'm obviously still with the branding. Actually, before this, I just got off a phone call with someone that needed help on branding. So I'm super excited about that. But working on all those things, I'm super excited because Tracy Cousineau and Michelle Renee and myself, we're starting an agency, which is something I've been wanting to do because collapsing time with a lot of things. So being like, I'm not going to share the details just yet because I don't think we're ready, but working on stuff like that. But then also just, helping people with their branding, helping people with their online presence, and then helping people really understand the importance of that. So, you would ask, like, how do you do that? And after you get your brand dialed in, after you get all that stuff going in, it's really easy. I always tell people, like, Google your name. Like, and if you have a simple name, say John Smith, which there might be a million of John Smiths, maybe John Smith real estate agent. Like, what are some words that people kind of would search for you as?
Sure. Yep.
And then auditing yourself and saying, okay, where am I coming up at short? So I've created 9 ways that I've personally have done to create authority online. So you guys can see it on the bottom down there. It's a free download. That's nothing being sold to you guys, but it's establishauthorityonline.com. And those are just some 9 ways that I've personally helped develop anything from podcasting to, being a co-host and things like that. But if you utilize those ways, you start understanding your name's going to be on multiple platforms because there's, there's no way that you can be on one thing and then that's it. The people are going to discover you from other avenues. So if you're on iHeartRadio, if you're on Spotify, if you're on entrepreneur.com, if you're on Facebook, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on all these places, obviously you're just every article you put out, every podcast episode you put out is another opportunity to amplify your presence. And really too, because it's so funny. Like last year I went to my hair girl who I go to now for the first time. And before my bottom even hit on her chair, her first words out of her mouth was, "Oh, you're a podcaster? Tell me about that." And I'm like, so she researched me before I even said her, and this is my hairstylist. So like,
good business acumen, nice.
And I'm paying her to do something. So can you imagine the people who are going and paying you 3% of their biggest investment, or maybe 6%, whatever whatever it is in the beginning. But people are researching you, and it's also too, how are you showing up? We all can have these amazing bios, or we can even do these amazing things offline and never show about it. But if we're not showing up online as a person that we know who we are, we're definitely doing a disservice, but we're also just diluting that first impression a lot of people will have on us before we actually meet them in person.
One of the comments, it says, "Ugh, that's the worst. Take the time to build a relationship, people."
Yes, it's so bad. Like, and it's so bad because, like, even last night I got a friend request come through, and one mutual friend, and I'm like, okay, well, who's this? So I click on it, and again with you, because same thing with you. You never know if it could be a potential client, could be whatever. And I hover over, and it's like this like really pretty girl, and I'm like, if I accept this friend request, I'm gonna give it 5 minutes before he slides in the DM. Like I acknowledge it, but like makes the time to build that relationship. And if people do, once you get connected with somebody, start liking their posts, be authentically interested. Like, wow, that's awesome. I also have a dog that I got from a shelter. Start building that relationship. Think about it as a bank account. You can't just take before the bank cuts you off. When you start taking from people, like on social media, there's a lot of people that I've just stopped responding to just because I'm like, oh my gosh, I get exhausted reading their name. Don't be that person. Build a relationship. Help them.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, and it's interesting too because I think you and I are cut from the same cloth. I'm not trying to help anybody I can,
100%.
and then we're not looking to charge money from people. We've had plenty of
Yeah,
times where we've helped people and haven't charged a penny because that's not always what it's all about. But
100%.
if you want our time, you really got to show us why it's worth our time. And I'm not speaking from a position of arrogance, but as you
Yeah.
build your brand, you get busier and busier, and people want to get to meet you and stuff like that. And so you've got to be really
Yeah.
careful. Like you've got kids, I've got kids, so
100%.
Cool. All right, so they can go to establishauthorityonline.com.
Yes.
Anything else you want to share with everybody today?
Oh my gosh, just go out and do it, you guys. Like I know a lot of we just hold ourselves back, and I know I'm not trying to sound like some whatever cheesy person, but at the end of the day, like if you feel uncomfortable doing it, but it's going to benefit you at the end, just freaking do it because that's going to be building your confidence. I know one major, there's like three major things that's really helped me overcome it, but I'll share one real quick that just because to end it put a bow on it, if you will, and that's going to be overcoming imposter syndrome. There's no such thing as overcoming it. But there's ways to handle it. So a lot of us don't go out and start things or don't put things out because there's a little voice in our head telling us that we're not smart enough, we're not good looking enough, we're not whatever, insert excuse here, and holding us back. But I think once you start taking action, once you start doing that, you start building that muscle, that confidence muscle. So the next time it's going to be easier. The next time it's going to be easier. I mean, like if you were to ask me to be on your podcast, Wally, 4 years ago, I would have immediately said yes. And it's not because there's anything against you. Right. It was because I would be terrified the thought of going live and not having a script and not knowing what to say or anything like that. Here, I mean, I was like, cool, we're going to talk about cool stuff. Like nothing's out. I'm an open book. Yeah. But I'm saying all that because that didn't happen overnight. And so whatever you're struggling with, maybe it's putting yourself out there. Maybe it's even like me putting your face out there. Just do it. Start building confidence up. And two, there's a couple of things I've heard it called, but just for keeping it PG-13, a brag list, listing out all your accomplishments so that those moments whenever you think that oh, I can't do this because I'm not smart enough, I haven't sold enough homes, I haven't done this, you whip out that list, and it could be anything from graduating high school, becoming a parent, folding the laundry on your darkest day, whatever it is, something you've overcome. You read that and you think, man, I am such a bad, I've got this. And I think that's just a confidence builder. So I just want to leave that with somebody, hopefully that can hear that and take some value of it, that helps them take action, because you never know what one little thing's going to result from.
Yeah. I mean, that stacking effect really, and it's interesting because I talk with people about this all day. The same thing that got you to where you are, where you're not feeling good about yourself and not wanting to put yourself out there, is the exact same process for doing it in the opposite. You just have to be
100%.
So I'm so thankful for that you joined me today. You crushed it as usual. Is there anything else you want to say?
I just appreciate you, Wally, and absolutely everyone listening in. If you guys aren't in Wally's group, get in his Facebook group because he's the real deal. I know when I was a real estate agent, I remember being that timid person. I still probably would be, I'm not going to lie, on those group calls and stuff, but you're the real deal, Wally. I appreciate you and everything that you do for everybody.
All right. I appreciate it. Guess what? That's Hollie Kitchens. I'm Wally Bressler. This has been On the Phone. Hey there, this is Wally Bressler, and on behalf of my guest today, I'd like to thank you for joining us for this episode of On the Phone. If you'd like more information on how to overcome sales call reluctance, procrastination, and self-sabotage, and become an expert on the phone, go to www.phonesalessecrets.com. And if you'd like my free course on how to overcome sales call reluctance, please go to www.phonesalessecrets.com.